Hello, everyone. My name is Demetrius Harmon. I'm a financial coach. I own Harmon Financial Coaching. I help my clients with budgeting, paying off debt, building wealth, saving money, and just increasing their financial literacy as a whole. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on. But without any further ado, I want to go ahead and get into it. I am obviously a personal finance guy, but I'm also a sports nerd, so you're going to get a double whammy. I'm going to go into detail on how professional athletes lose their money. All right, in no particular order. Number one, bad investments. All right, so you may say, what do you mean bad investments? Well, there's a lot of athletes on record, and they have invested in the Ponzi schemes. They thought they were investing into, the next big steakhouse, and it turns out that this guy just skipped town and left with their money. So we're not talking about, $10,000, $4,000. We're talking about big chunks of money. We're talking about $100,000, $250,000, stuff like that. Sometimes $300,000, and you do that a few times, and you're in the red. It doesn't take long to be in the red, or maybe you're not in the red. But what ends up happening is over a period of time, you made other bad financial decisions as well. And then you look back and you say, man, I lost, $500,000 just from bad investments alone. Well, if you had that $500,000 now, they probably would be okay. I mean, they were better off just taking that $500,000 and investing into the stock market, and they would have been just fine. Put it into the S&P 500. So bad investments is very common. I'm going to give you a few more examples. There are athletes who invested into fake solar companies, right? These solar companies were not real. They thought they were. They thought it was the next big thing, and only to find out, again, it was a bad investment. And the thing about these bad investments is you don't get your money back. That's the key. They may take people to court. They try to recoup their money. More times than not, it doesn't happen. So that money is just gone. So think of it like this. And at the end of this video, I'm going to kind of talk about some things that we can learn from it, but I just want to give like a tangible example, something that's rooted in reality. How many times have we bought something and it was a bad purchase, but it was like, $20, or maybe you bought some food and it was just okay. It was like, you won't go there again. But that was just like I said, $20, right? You learned your lesson. Now you do that on a bigger scale. You make that same mistake on steroids. And you start talking about, you invested $250,000 and it's gone. That's gone. So in the NFL, we know that the NFL stands for National Football League, but sports guys, they know that there's a funny term that we use, a nickname I should say, and we say not for long. I'm gonna say it again, not for long. So you have to think about when you go into it and they have a nickname such as not for long, you have to be really, really smart with your money, right? For various reasons, but that tells you right there, because the average, for NFL, for example, the average player never sees their second contract. The average player, you're talking about, 3-4 years and he's done. He's got injured, he got cut, whatever the case may be. He just, they have a term in NFL, you can't make the club if you're always in the tub, which means if you're always getting treatment, you're always hurt, the teams don't want you there. The league don't want you. They can't do anything with you if you're not on the field. So these bad investments are compounded by not being in the league very long, and also compounded with they do this multiple times. And like I said, one or two Ponzi schemes that can put you in the red really fast. One or two fake solar companies, or investing into the restaurant business, which is one of the hardest businesses to win in. And then you never see that money again. So that's number one, bad investments. Number two, giving people access to their money. If I had $1 for every time I heard a professional athlete say, oh, my business partner, he had X amount of dollars and he left town with it, or their financial advisor stole this money from them, or their handlers, which I don't even know what that means, handlers. Nobody's handling my money. I'm handling my own money. So they give people access to their money. Now, what happens when someone has access to something? We know, we're not stupid. That means they have some sort of control over your money. So that means that if they want to send it to, a fake company that's really their company, then they can just do that. And they write checks from your account. I know it sounds crazy. You're like, why would somebody do that? If you don't believe me, look it up. You can just Google athletes who went broke, and the list, you'll get 1,000,001 hits. It's just out of control. So that's number two, giving people access to the money. Also, family members. I can't leave them out, unfortunately. You know, your third cousin twice removed doesn't need access to your money. He doesn't need to be living in your house. Because now he can look at some things. He can look at some statements, some reports. He can memorize some numbers. He can steal information. So I'm big on loyalty. I really am. But I once heard a saying, and I think it's true: loyalty has an expiration date. Once you make it to the league, whether you're in the NFL, NBA, I'm all about loyalty. I really am. But when you start talking about somebody trying to guilt trip you into something that they did for you out of the kindness of their own heart, 20 years ago or 16 years ago or whatever the case may be, and you still think that you owe a debt to them, you don't owe a debt to them at all. Like I said, loyalty has an expiration date. And when that elevator goes up, that elevator stops at different floors to let people off, and then it continues to go up to the top floor. When you make it in the league, you got to understand that you're going to the top floor and you're going to have to let some people off. They're going to say you changed. You didn't change. Money doesn't change you. It just highlights who you already are. However, you got to be smart with your money, because 80% of all 80% of all millionaires are first generation. What that means is they are the first ones in their family to become millionaires. The first one in their family to become millionaires. So they have to move differently. They got to be smart about it. They got to be strategic. And the way that they operate, how they used to operate, they can't operate like that anymore, right? You can't, when's the last time you seen, a superstar just walking in the mall? They can't, because they would get mobbed by fans, right? So they have to figure out other ways how to shop. They have people bringing them clothes, things of that nature. It's the same way when you become a professional athlete. You got to move differently. You can't move with the same people. You have to keep your circle small. And I've seen this too many times. Like I said, just people having access to their money has been a lot of people's downfall. All right, number three. This is a great segue, by the way. Just say no. Not having the ability to say no. I've said this on numerous videos of mine. No is a complete sentence. I love what Fred Taylor said. For those that don't know, Fred Taylor, he played in the league for about 13 years. Fred Taylor was a dog. He was a really good running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's actually their leading rusher, if I'm not mistaken, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I love what he said. Fred Taylor's from Florida, by the way. He's from Florida. He went to University of Florida, and then he played a long career at Jacksonville. He went on to play for a few other teams, but everybody knows him with his playing days in Jacksonville Jaguars. He said the veterans told him, they said, "Hey, Rook," Rook is short for rookie. They said, "Hey, Rook, you better learn how to say no." I love that advice. He's just getting there on campus, and they said, he's just getting there in training camp. And the veterans are like, "Hey, Rook, you better learn how to say no." You got people who can't say no because they have a big heart, and I'm all about giving. I really do. I have a big heart as well, but you got to have that discernment. I've heard guys say that when they moved when they got drafted to a particular city, their mom, their dad, their cousins, their brothers, their uncles, the whole family, the pastor, this is like everybody just moved. So my thing is, great, I get drafted, I go to, I go out to Denver. I'm asking you, how are you going to make a living? Because you're just moving out here. You just basically moved. You can't just expect me just to support you. I'm only going to take care of very few people, right? So, they can't say no. And what happens is they end up paying for everybody, and they pay for everything, and then they just suck you dry. And like I said, NFL, not for long. Their contracts aren't guaranteed. The NBA, it's a little different, but it's the same concept. You get a lot of money, It's for a short period of time, so you got to be very smart with it. And people that are coming at you, you got to figure out how to say no. You're not a bad person for saying no. That's actually smart, you know. All right, so the fourth thing, lack of financial literacy. I'm gonna say it again, lack of financial literacy. If you don't understand how money is, you don't know how it operates, you don't know the ins and outs of it, you're going to lose it. I love the old adage: a fool and his money is soon departed. I'm gonna say it again: a fool and his money is soon departed. So if you, let's say you make $1,000,000, right? So you got $1,000,000. Right off the top, Uncle Sam roughly he wants 40%. So right off the top, he's taking $400,000. So now you have $600,000. Then you got to pay your agent. Let's say on the high side, 10%. So your agent takes $100,000. Now you're down to $500,000. You only have $500,000, which is a lot. But they don't even understand that. They really think like, oh, I'm about to get this check. It's all mine, and now I'm going to ball out of control. No, nope. They don't understand taxes. They don't understand debt. They don't understand those things. And what happens is they make a series of bad decisions because of their lack of financial literacy. Information is important. Knowledge is power. If you have that knowledge, now you have that power to make an informed decision. Just like a negotiation. You say, well, who wins in a negotiation? Typically the person who has the most information. If let's say it's a real estate, the person who knows all the comps, they know how much everything is per square footage. They also know how much this house sold for down the street, around the corner. They have the most information. They're most likely to win a negotiation. So knowledge is power, and if they don't have that financial literacy, which a lot of people don't, a lot of athletes don't. Like I said, a lot of people, in America, 80% of all millionaires are first generation. So they weren't trained, but it's no excuse. No excuse at all. Educate yourself. All right, I get it. You got to lift weights, you got to eat right and all that stuff, but you need to educate yourself. You need to take time to figure out the business side of things. Help yourself understand how if I do this, it's a cause and effect. What is going to happen if I do X, and what happens when I do Z? And if you don't understand that, don't do it. So financial literacy is the fourth reason why they go broke. And the last reason, the fifth reason, is this: they don't think long term. I'm gonna say it again. They don't think long term. I just mentioned NFL, not for long, right? But it really stands for National Football League. But like I said, they joke around and say not for long. But if you don't think long term, just imagine this for a second. Let's say that you have, you have a big decision to make, right? Let's say it's college, for example. You have a kid, and a kid is about to go to college. But what if college was only 3 months? Isn't that a big difference between 3 months and going somewhere for 4 years, right? So long term, you have to think of all the stuff like, okay, this person is from Missouri, but they're going to California, they're going to UCLA for 4 years. Like, they have to think about that. But if it was only three months, then the decision is a lot easier. It just changes the dynamics of the situation. That makes sense? So when you're making a lot of money for a short period of time, you think like, oh, this is going to last forever, but it's not. So you got to start thinking long term. How much money am I going to save? Do I really need, $100,000 worth of jewelry? Do I really need 20 people in my entourage? And I got to feed all these grown men. I'm sorry. Nobody feeds me. I feed myself. I get my own money. So why do I have a 20-person entourage? Stop it. You can't do it, because if you're broke, you can't help them. All right, you got to take care of the four walls. So basically, if everybody's broke, then everybody loses. Somebody has to win. Somebody has to keep the money, right? So if they don't think long term, they're going to make short term decisions, but it's not really short term. It's short term decisions in their mind, but it's actually affecting them long term. So if you buy $100,000 worth of jewelry, and let's say you're very good and you stay in the league for 10 years, that $100,000 easily could be 1.5 with investments, easily. So I hope you really enjoyed that necklace. I hope you liked it. because you might have just cost yourself $1.5 million. And that's how thinking long term can really, not thinking long term hurts a lot of these people. All right, so real quick, what can we learn? What can we learn, all right, from these athletes? Number one, if you have a lot of money and if they have a lot of money and they can still lose it, what can we learn from that? That means that we need to be really smart with our money as well. Because you're talking about some guys have made $80 million in 10 years and then 3 years later they're bankrupt. How do you make $80 million in 10 years and then bankrupt in 3 years after you get out of the league? How? I just explained it. So what do we have to do? We have to learn how to control the money that we have now. And then when we start to make that real money and we really start to build wealth, we will already know how to manage it, right? So that's number one. That's the thing that we can learn, how to manage the money that we do have, so that way when we start making more, we'll know what to do with it. All right, number two, when you're talking about money, people are going to come at you from all different sides. Everybody's your cousin. Everybody's your brother. I remember I used to change your diaper. Thank you. You changed my diaper. With that being said, be gone. Right? Everybody's going to come at you, so you got to learn how to say no. And you're not being mean. That's just smart business, and you got to understand that you can't give everybody money. It just doesn't work that way. You're going to end up being broke. And the last thing is learn how money works. All right, learn how money works. I had a professor tell me, he said, learn the money, learn the game. I'm going to say it again. Learn the money, learn the game. So if you don't learn the money, you're going to always lose the game. So learn the money, learn the game, and I promise you, you will be better off with your money that you're making now. So when you start to really build wealth, you'll feel comfortable and you'll know exactly what you're doing. All right, so that is my time. If you made it this far, please just give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I really would appreciate it. Change your mindset, grow your money. Thank you. God bless.